Well, good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is OTIENO and this is KTV Primetime News. It is a Monday, the 26th day of September, the year 2022. Tonight, we have a lot in store for you in matters happening in the country and, of course, beyond our borders. Now, the Supreme Court, the apex court in the land today, gave the detailed judgment on the 2022 presidential election petition. And then we have seen, of course, the President, Dr. William Samuel Ruto, of course, flagging off relief food to the counties that have been affected by drought. Just a lot for us. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines tonight. Several people feared trap as a story building collapses in Kiambu County. President William Ruto flags off relief food to 23 drought-stricken counties. Azimio gives IBC 24 hours to reinstate Deputy CEO Ruth Kulundu. Supreme Court delivers detailed judgment on Raila Odinga's presidential election petition.
This is KUTV Primetime News with OTIENO.
Welcome to the broadcast, and I'm not alone. I'm with the company of Makrina Chieng, who is a sign language interpreter tonight, and we're streaming live this broadcast on all social media platforms on Facebook, KUTV Kenya, on Twitter, KUTV_Kenya. It's also live on YouTube at KUTV Kenya Live. Now, in the course of this bulletin, we shall be having a discussion on the state of politics in the country, where we shall be joined by Kennedy Sankara, who is a political commentator. Now, at least 3 people, including 2 children, have lost their lives and 6 others injured after a residential 7-story building collapsed on Monday morning in Kirigiti village in Kiambu County. The building fell on the nearby houses, causing injuries and death of people.
Panic struck Kirigiti village in Kiambu County after a story building collapsed early today morning. Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi and police officers were on site early this morning to lead in the rescue operations. In a social media post, Wamatangi said several people had been trapped in the collapse. The governor rallied the residents to aid in the operations to save those trapped. In October last year, a 9-story building under construction in Ruiru town collapsed within the same county. Preliminary investigations indicated that the building may have collapsed due to its weight. Even though no casualties were reported, the collapse caused fear and panic among residents. Former Kiambu Governor James Nyoro formed a task force that included the National Construction Authority, Surveyors of Kenya, and Board of Engineers in Kenya, who were to go on a fact-finding mission on positions of buildings in Kiambu County that are under construction. On 6th March this year, just barely 4 months after the crackdown by former Governor James Nyoro was put in place, another building in Kiambu County, Kino area, developed weak points and leaned on another. Just barely 2 months later, in May 18, 2022, 2 people lost their lives as yet another building collapsed in Ruiru, Kiambu County. The building had been marked for demolition by Kenya National Highways Authority, KENHA, to pave way for the expansion of the Eastern Bypass. The number of buildings collapsing in the country remains alarming and a high cause for concern among the public. Investigation is still underway to determine the cause of the collapse today. Susan Karenga, KUTV.
Thank you so much, Susan Karenga, for that report. And it's very unfortunate just losing citizens to such incidences. just 3 months to the end of this year. May the departed souls rest in eternal peace. Now, President William Ruto today flagged off assorted food items to the drought-stricken countries to mitigate the adverse effects to the populations. In his address, he called for public-private partnership and urged the county governments to make provisions in the budget to help solve the drought situation. In the efforts to avert the adverse effects of drought in the northeastern part of Kenya and other regions, the President of the Republic, Dr. William Ruto, today flagged off 50 trucks carrying a total of 20,000 bags of rice and beans to the affected families. While giving his address at the State House, he lauded the partners of the program, calling on more public-private partnerships to help contain the situation. He also called on the county governments to make provisions in their budget to allocate funds to initiatives of warding off drought.
We have in these 50 trucks, 20,000 bags of rice, 20,000 bags of beans, and assorted animal feed, together with cooking oil that will go to the various parts of our country that today are facing serious challenges of drought. The same thing we are doing at the national government. We expect county governments to adjust their budget so that there can be available additional resources to take care of the drought situation in the country.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who met the county governors earlier on, assured the nation that the government is keen on ensuring there is transparency in the distribution of the food. He also affirmed the commitment to work with the county governments to help the affected counties.
We have agreed on the way forward, and I want to assure the people of Kenya that the President has directed that he wants a continuous engagement between the national government and the county government because we serve the same people. And out of that consultation, a roadmap has already been created going forward.
Council of Governors Chairperson Anne Waiguru urged the national government to fast-track the release of the equitable share of revenue to the counties to scale up humanitarian assistance to the affected households.
We further would like to request the national government through NDMA to fast-track the process of actualizing the Drought Emergency Fund, as well as immediately release the equitable share of revenue due to counties to scale up the humanitarian assistance to the household experiencing severe droughts.
President William Ruto noted that about 3.5 million people have been severely affected by the drought in various parts of the country. The drought experience in the country is attributed to the climate change, which has had effects to the weather patterns. Dr. William Ruto affirmed that his government will champion for solving the climate crisis. Now, still President William Ruto says that he is willing to explore options in solving the fuel crisis that has seen the cost of living go up, leaving Kenyan households at an economic crisis. The options include buying fuel from Russia in a government-to-government deal, despite many other countries distancing themselves from Russia following its invasion of Ukraine.
In an interview, President William Ruto pointed out in the fuel crisis in the country, saying that he is willing and open to buy fuel from the Russian state. This, despite other countries opting away from the idea of engaging with Moscow since the invasion of Ukraine in February this year. The president hinted that the cause of the fuel crisis in the country stems out from the cartels in the energy sector hoarding fuel, thus causing artificial shortage of oil. On whether the president will negotiate with Russia on the fuel matters and East African bloc, he noted that the move remains a solitary Kenyan one at the moment. In a speech after being sworn in on 13 September, Ruto noted the subsidies had been costly and prone to abuse, including causing artificial shortages of the very products being subsidized. In his latest interview, Mr. Ruto defended his decision last week to scrap some fuel subsidies, pointing out that they were unsustainable and prone to abuse. The pinch of the fuel crisis has had an impact in the transport sector in the country, inflicting more pain on households and businesses weighed down by a high cost of living. Arno Dida, KUTV, Nairobi.
Right, and that of course puts Kenya, which is a powerhouse in the East African economy, at a spot since the Western countries which we depend on for the bilateral trades and ties, of course, which has sanctioned Moscow since they invaded Ukraine. It's at a spot, well, of course, from the Western nations. But all we hope is that the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, wishes Kenyans the best in his actions. Now, police on Monday lobbed tear gas as leaders allied to the Azimio coalition party held protests outside the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission offices in Nairobi. A section of the MPs marched to the anniversary towers to protest against the decision by the IEBC to interdict the Deputy CEO Ruth Kulundu after she was accused of gross misconduct by the IEBC CEO Marjan Hussein Marjan for calling an unlawful commission plenary meeting.
News of Ruth Kalundu interdiction revealed on Wednesday by Azimio allied MPs during a media briefing at Safari Park Hotel Nairobi hit the Azimio MPs hard, which they termed as a witch hunt choreographed by commissioners allied to Chebukati. In an attempt to air their petitions to IEBC, Heavy Logs welcomed the leaders as there was no one from the commission to listen to their demands.
I made it my duty to be present so that we can observe peace. It has been a peaceful demonstration, but we are surprised by the reaction of the police and the reaction of the office of the IEBC. We came here for a noble cause, but they've locked the doors, they've created a tensive atmosphere. We came here to try and protect the democratic space of Kenya and safeguard all these achievements that have been made to make sure Kenya is a democratic space.
According to the politicians, the reaction of the police towards the peaceful demonstrators and the office of the IEBC locking the gates came as a surprise to them, claiming it big against the constitutional right of access.
We are certain that despite clear provisions of how to handle disciplinary matters, the manner in which Madam Ruth Kilundu has been treated by Chebukati and Majan is not only a breach of set guidelines, but is part of a well-orchestrated scheme to intimidate public officers who stand for the rule of law, but also question upholding free and fair elections.
Reading a notice statement, they claimed that despite the clear provisions of handling disciplinary matters, the manner in which Kilundu had been treated is a breach of set guidelines.
So we demand as follows. Number one, that IEBC immediately reinstates Ruth Kilundu to her rightful position of Deputy CEO within the next 24 hours, failure to which we shall take stern action against Wafula Chebukati and the CEO Marjan Hussein Marjan. Number two, that IEBC calls to order Marjan Hussein and demonstrate to Kenyans that he shall live by the values and principles of public service, failure to which we shall demand that he relinquishes his position prior to the commencement of the boundaries review exercise or conducting the pending by-elections.
The deputy CEO was accused of calling an unlawful commission plenary meeting of 4 breakaway commissioners, as well as questioning the decision to suspend elections in Mombasa and Kakamega. Jeff Mwangi, KUTV.
Thank you, Jeff Mwangi, for bringing us to speed with that report. Now, the Kenyan National Human Rights Commission, KNHCR, has commended the security agencies on their conduct in the just concluded general elections. The commission further urged the Electoral Commission, IEBC, to ensure that civic education is disseminated according to the electorate before future exercises, as well as pinpointing a series of improvements to be made to ensure a smooth process going forward.
Report demystify have a big drop in the number of lives lost, and this testifies to the good work done by the security agencies and also the good work done in peace promotion. In that, we thank the religious leaders, the NCCK and the NCIC for peace messaging constantly. The commission monitored inflammatory speeches in political gatherings and the media and documented 49 cases of threats, harassment and intimidation. Such utterances disenfranchise people of their constitutionally guaranteed rights by creating fear amongst voters and threatening peace and stability. Despite the accreditation by IEBC, the Commission recorded instances where observers were denied access to either the polling stations or tallying centers.
Alright, now the apex court in the land has released the detailed full judgment on the presidential election petition 2022. The court has found that the evidence presented by the petitioners did not meet the threshold to overturn the results that were announced by the IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati, which declared President William Ruto the winner of the presidential election.
The Supreme Court of Kenya has finally broken its silence and explained in detail the reason that prompted Ruto's win to be upheld in the hotly contested election of 2022. According to a 133-page judgment, the 2022 general election was conducted in adherence to the Constitution and the election laws. The court has reiterated that the first respondent in that case and who emerged the winner attained a 50% and 1 vote in all the votes that were cast and counted as required by the Constitution. In its ruling, the court gave the verdict in reference to 9 reasons presented by the Azimio coalition and 6 other petitioners. Among the reasons is whether the technology deployed by IEBC met the standards of integrity, verifiability, security and transparency, and whether the declared president-elect attained 50% plus 1 of all the votes cast. The 2022 general election witnessed 2 main contenders between President William Ruto and the leader of Azimio coalition Raila Odinga. Ruto garnered 7,176,141 votes, while Odinga got 6,942,930 votes. Professor George Wajakoya of the Roots Party got 61,969, whereas David Mwaure of the Agano Party got 31,987 votes. In unanimity, the court dismissed the consolidated presidential election petition, upholding the declaration of William Ruto as the president-elect as valid under the Article 140, Section 3 of the Constitution. The court also directed that the sums which were deposited by the petitioners as security be released to them. Reporting for KUTV, my name is Shadrach Simiyu.
Alright. On my chronometer, it's 19 minutes past the top of the hour. My director is telling me that it's time since I came with my tachymeter, which I probably should be having tomorrow, so that I tell you the times exactly as we're taking breaks. And we shall be coming back with the discussion of the night, the state of politics. Stay with us. See you on the other side.
Driving and riding without incidences on the road is such an amazing experience. But do you know while many road traffic crashes are avoidable, human behavior continues to be the leading cause. Speeding, lane indiscipline, drunk driving, distracted driving, failure to wear a helmet, and failure to use available pedestrian ways have been flagged by NTSA as the fatal 6 behaviors likely to lead to a fatal crash and serious injuries. As part of the Usalama Barabarani campaign, we request all road users to prevent these fatal 6 behaviors for their own safety and that of others. When driving, ensure your speed is within the stipulated limits, the road ahead is clear before overtaking. Stick to your lane, keep left unless carefully overtaking. You're well rested if driving on long distances, and you never drink and drive. Usalama Barabarani starts with you. Fika Salama. This message is brought to you by the National Transport and Safety Authority and the European Union.
Lola is an app that gives you a chance to watch videos, listen to audios, and read articles wherever you are for free. Motivational stories, dramas, campus life, technology, lifestyle, adventure, sports, academics, jobs, entertainment, and more. Download Lola now on Play Store. All you need, you got Lola.
All of them started here. That's why they are swimming for Kenya. It's only that they advance to the point of getting opportunities abroad. The talent that we have here, raw talent, is enormous.
Access to knowledge. Solution to unanswered questions.
Guidelines to pursuing your rights and repossessing your property, intellectual or material.
This and more only on Law Matters.
Hello everyone, this is the new chapter of Let's Be Fit. I'll be host DiCaplo. I'm here to give you various workouts. I'll be having different trainers. We'll have Zumba classes, we'll have aerobics classes, we'll have boxercise, we'll have kata box, just name them. The show comes every Thursday from 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. Keep it locked. Make sure we keep fit. And that's it from me to you. Let's be fit.
What's up, people? How are you doing? My name is Katali Kenya, and I will be bringing you the full packed entertainment show in the 254. Talk about trending topics on the industry 411.
When these people were doing the things they've been accused of, was I there?
We're bringing you the biggest upcoming and sizzling artists in East Africa coming through.
So then I got a call from Shafi Weru. And he asked me, wewe, unataka kufanya radio ama ni nini?
Nikiwa solo artist, sema nilikuwa careful.
The biggest concerts and events going down in East Africa. As well as articulating youth issues that matter.
There's a lot of stress and strain that is associated with early parenthood.
This is the full packed entertainment show that you cannot afford to miss every Monday from 8 p.m. This is the Scrunch Show, and see you there.
You are watching KUTV Primetime News with Omondi Otieno.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us on KUTV Primetime News. If you're just joining us, we're streaming live our broadcast on Facebook, KUTV Kenya, on Twitter, KUTV_Kenya. It's also live on YouTube at KUTV Kenya Live. Now, the Supreme Court of Kenya today gave a detailed full judgment on the presidential election petition of 2022, which upheld Dr. William Samoei Ruto's win. And that therefore sets the petitioners, the Azimio la Umoja camp, in the opposition in administering their duties of keeping checks in the government. The Azimio leaders held protests today outside the IBC offices demanding for reinstatement of the Deputy CEO Ruth Kulundu. What is the fate, therefore, of the House, which is opposing the government, which with the cracks that emerged over the House leadership? And therefore, that forms the basis of our discussion tonight. And joining me is Sankara Kennedy, who is a political commentator. Thank you so much, Sankara, for dedicating your time for this discussion.
Thank you.
All right. Now, looking at the political landscape, we have seen today the Supreme Court of Kenya giving a detailed judgment of the verdict that they rendered concerning the 2022 presidential election petition. So we saw when the verdict was being rendered, the Azimio camp was not contended with how the Apex Court, the Supreme Court, conducted the judgment. So this detailed judgment that was released today by the Supreme Court, does it give now satisfactory reasons to the Azimio camp, since they were not contented with what the judges released during the day when they were rendering the verdict?
Kenneth, allow me tell you that not only are they seeming not contented by the judgment, but I would confirm to you that even the people of Kenya were not interested on what was to be rendered by the Supreme Court. In referring to the judgment, the initial declaration by the Supreme Court, the Azimio Brigade termed it as abusive language.
Yes.
This automatically drove their attention far away from Supreme Court related activities. And in my personal consciousness, I would question the decision arrived by the Supreme Court to deliver the judgment on Gmail. How many Kenyans are on Gmail? How many Kenyans can read that information? With regards to public interest, the information must have not met, or it's a clear indication that the consumption of that information was for a specific group of people. Not every Kenyan is on Gmail. Not every Kenyan knows what a Gmail is. Actually, I've traversed this country on political errands, and I can confidently and authoritatively confirm to you that this Gmail is just hot air. Not everyone knows exactly what Gmail is in Kenya. So if it's a matter of urgency that every person is entitled to that information, it is delivered on Gmail, a lot of people are cut off. And we all understand the disadvantages of oral communication. There is elements of omissions, exaggerations, and such kind of information bias related activities that may affect the original information or the intention of the communication. Number two, we saw the highlights that the Supreme Court gave on...
Maybe just to cut you off a little bit, because you're saying that not many Kenyans are conversant with Gmail. It did not, the detailed judgment did not arrive into everyone's Gmail account. It only arrived to those who are subscribed, of course, who are interested in the full judgment. And probably if it's reaching, is the information reaching Kenyans. That's why I probably think the media comes in, because we shall be having this full judgment, of course, even in the papers tomorrow. What do you think?
Well, I believe I'm loyal to my consciousness. And when I say every Kenyan is entitled to that information, those are just secondary thoughts that they will be on papers. My main concern is, just as they were delivering the judgment, it was on radios, it was on televisions, and that was the main activity. What makes the difference today? They had all the time to even give us the headlines. In summary, the Supreme Court has directed IBC to do ABCD. That one would make a lot of sense. But telling us the Gmail thing, well, they are entitled to what they feel they should be doing. But I also, as a patriotic citizen, I'm entitled to my opinion.
Right.
Yes, there are no established guidelines on how I should access those information, but they are bound to communicate.
Right.
Yes.
All right, you are continuing. I just cut you off on what you're saying.
Yeah, and we saw some peculiar remarks being given by the Supreme Court. And if I may quote, the Supreme Court directed IBC to put its house in order. This is a very sensitive content. by virtue of utterance of house being put in order, there is a clear indication and submission that omissions must have been done or duplications of roles at the IBC Commission.
Yes.
And by the Supreme Court telling IBC to develop guidelines that separates the policy and administrative functions within the Commission, that is a clear indication that there is someone who is more than IBC within the IBC. And they went ahead to speak on the Commission's, the chairperson's roles, supervisory roles, and accountability responsibilities. And when we refer to the Supreme Court case filed by the Azimio One Kenya Coalition, the IBC was pointed fingers at having overacted, or some individuals within the IBC overacted or duplicated roles of others. So that really raises questions on the credibility of that elections, because if the Supreme Court is not convinced on the roles of Wafula Chebukati, Juliana Cherera, Abdi Gulia and the rest, Lolu or whoever, I don't know, I may not quote the right name, but they are not really aware of individual roles, then that clearly points out that IBC was somehow on autopilot during elections. Anyone could do anything as long as they are in the commission. That automatically puts the will of the people at jeopardy. And therefore, those are critical issues that we as the people of Kenya must analyze critically so as to determine the veracity of the information that is being passed from this body. If the Supreme Court is not aware of what the chairperson should do, because by virtue of telling the IBC to put its house in order, it automatically points out that there is some bits of disorderliness in the commission, and that the most endangered species or group of individuals here are the people of Kenya who entrusted the constitutional responsibility of delivering a free, fair, verifiable, credible elections to the people of Kenya. Also, they touched on the technology deployed by IBC, and they supported IBC protection of the server and the Form 34A, printing and etc. The Azimio argued that the technology deployed by IBC did not meet the basic constitutional thresholds of an election technology, that is verifiability, integrity, transparency, and simplicity. A lot of things. These are constitutional pronouncements. They are not Sankara words. They are words found in our constitutions, especially in our constitution in regards to matters electoral process. So by just looking at a sample of what was spoken at the Supreme Court, it clearly revamps the belief in the Azimio Brigade that not everything went right as it has been said. But being that we are in a democratic society, the Supreme Court had already made its declaration. They have to accept, but they have to respect in as much as they disagree with it.
Yes. All right. Now, following that, of course, maybe we're talking of the Supreme Court telling the Electoral Commission, IBC, to put the house in order. We saw what happened after the presidential election and the declaration. Of course, what we saw today is the Azimio camp, leaders allied to the Azimio, are protesting at the anniversary towers for the reinstatement of the deputy CEO, that is Ruth, of course, to be reinstated back to office. So why is it that this has not been condemned by the government of the day? If it was not done the right way, it's not been condemned by the government of the day. So is it that we are seeing the opposition, of course, now coming into play, their roles, of course, in keeping checks in the government?
Well, I would question the Azimio's move, whether it is in line with pursuit of institutional correctness or it is in line with alignment with individuals in various independent institutions. There is a laid down procedure on termination of responsibilities in every public office. If I'm not wrong, I paid my time during the Supreme Court case and had the Supreme Court judge or the Chief Justice Martha Koome say it is not within their responsibility to find Wafula Chebukati culpable of those electoral offences and render punishment, e.g. removal of him from office, being that will be acting as, they will be usurping the powers of the lower courts.
Right.
So, by referring to that statement, if the law was not followed, due process in the removal of the deputy CEO from office, then Wafula Chebukati should be actually made responsible by being charged before a court of law, so that he understands that the constitution is not a creative convenience. It is the rule of law. Whether you like it or not, you have to be submissive to it. Number two, the government condemning the movement, the move by the Azimio, that is a relative thought on their side. But I would wish to speak or touch something on how they reacted to that particular scenario.
Yes.
The rights to pickpocket, those are constitutional, inalienable constitutional rights.
Yes.
They are documented.
The right to picket.
Yes, I mean, we don't need to ask people for permissions to do the right thing. As long as law, order, and safety is maintained, no one should be questioned on what happened. But again, the police will tell you, me, I'm a product or a victim of arrest on the picket demonstrations. I remember I was arrested some time back for participating in a patriotic context in Sabasaba demos, and I was charged with various unjustifiable criminal offenses. And the police were arguing that we must get you a notice. We must get you a notice so that we provide you securities, because thugs take advantage of such constitutional moments to interfere with public peace, property, and order.
Right.
Well, the argument is on merit, but being that politics, it is a political process, and political process is a very extremely difficult scenario to understand, because you may think you are right until you realize the right is not the actual right.
Sure.
Yeah. So that move of tear gas lobbying at those protesters, to me, I must condemn it. It is causing unnecessary mayhem. Why did they let the people do the right thing when they stormed the office? They ought to have seen or waited until they cause commotion that is against the law. Then our police service or the police force would have moved in. You don't stop people who have not even caused any damage somewhere by lobbying tear gas. In fact, the person in charge of command should be made answerable. The president has just been speaking about the independence of the police, and when I'm speaking here, I'm not speaking in alignment to any political affiliation. I believe I'm an independent patriot, and I must stand with my consciousness. My highest loyalty is owed to my consciousness, my integrity, not to individuals. So that must not have happened. They ought to have waited for some few minutes to see what actually could succeed the events, but you don't proceed with violence.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, now that would raise questions, because looking at the conduct of how the police were supposed just to maintain peace and order, of course, them lobbing tear gas to people who are doing peaceful demonstrations, because we saw people like TJ Kajwang saying that whatever they were doing, they were doing it in alignment to the constitution, but the police officers who were supposed to probably give them security now are lobbing tear gas at them. So moving forward, I mean, which picture does this really paint? Because in a protest that they were making, of course, protesting of the unlawful, of course, rather calling for reinstatement of Ruth Kulundu, for that matter, in the position of the deputy CEO, was probably doing the right thing, because she was being removed from office, but it was not done the right way. Yes. Meaning, even the government itself, the government of the day, should have come out, of course, to defend Kulundu on her position. So, what does this? Which picture does this paint in our political landscape moving forward? Does it really create fear for people who want to protest against bad things being done in the government? Of course, probably refraining from going ahead into doing what they probably feel it should be done.
The Kenya Kwanza sang freedom is here, freedom is coming.
Yes.
Was it freedom to curtail individual documented constitutional rights? Mm-hmm. That is not the definition of freedom, I know, not unless it changed. And the action at the anniversary towers is a clear definition of the criminality or criminal nature of our police service. These are people who are hell-bent on causing chaos whenever peaceful public constitutional moments are in action. Instead of providing security to people who are picketing peacefully and in a free environment, the police will always move fast with, they say they act on orders. I don't know how orders are interlinked with the constitutionalism of those independent institutions. I believe we must have an independent police service where the people who are in police service must be made to understand. And I'm not saying should, I'm not providing rooms for second thought. I'm saying must, to close that chapter. They must be told that there are constitutional freedoms and rights in the constitution that do not beg for their approval for them to be executed. They were not part of the struggle. They must not be part of the people impeding the modifications of those rights. They must not be perfect, but their roles must be categorical, providing peace and security, maintaining law and order, which disorder was created by these people marching peacefully towards the IBC headquarters. They just wanted to ensure that constitution is put to the maximum exploitation. When I'm wrongful in an office, the removal procedure must be constitutional or must be in line with the constitutional dictates on removal of a public officer from office. Right. But in Kenya, we are suffering from what we call institutional incorrectness or lack of uprightness in our institutions. Independent institutions have been used to perpetuate political agenda and also do political revenge. I may not speak in a cowardice manner, because we saw the government of today applauded a sect of IBC staffs. That was, to me, a wrong move. The IBC do not need to be in bed with anyone. They need to be in bed with the law.
All right, but
so anyway, giving appliances to one side automatically raises questions on how within the how.
All right.
That is something that we need to know. So for me, it is very wrong lobbing tear gas canisters. We need those tear gas canisters can be used. Those are taxpayers' money. You don't just need to throw a tear gas canister because you have something that can throw a tear gas canister. They are designed for a specific activity.
All right.
Let them wait for serious activities where tear gas canisters can be lobbied. They should use them, but not on serious people. These are lawmakers. They were MPs.
Yes.
They know exactly what to do when.
All right.
You can't tell me that those MPs were fools to go and demand for reinstatement of Kulundu as the deputy CEO if she was rightfully removed from office.
All right, Sankara, thank you for that. Now, of course, now looking at the opposition, of course, we saw them coming out rightfully. These are some of the functions of the opposition, keeping checks in the government. And there have been cracks emerging, of course, in the Azimio camp. We're talking of the Azimio camp, of course, we know it's made up of very many parties, but in the ODM house, where then the names that were proposed for the position of the majority whip and the majority leaders were not did not sit well with some of the Azimio members, rather members allied to the ODM party. So from what we saw, of course, during this naming of these nominations, the names, of course, that were given, provisional names for these positions, do you think these have a threshold of probably dividing, causing divisions in the Azimio camp, in the opposition camp? Because we saw people who are supposed to be so strong, people who have stood strong with the ODM camp, of course, now giving negative comments concerning the House leadership.
Politicians must shun from selfish attitudes. It was pathetic to hear, and I will quote these individuals. You know, Opiyo Wandayi was elected by the people of Ugenya. John Mbadi was nominated by ODM. How, where on earth do Mbadi expect, by virtue of being an ODM chair, to be the majority whip leader, and against Opiyo, who was elected by the people? Common sense may not be common to everyone, but at that particular point in time, and with serious political parties like ODM, that is something that should be cutting across. And number two, politics is dirty. Actually, politics is a clean game being played by dirty people. Politics is never dirty. It is the people, the players, who are dirty. It will not be a surprise to me to find that the people in government have an hand on what may be likely to happen in ODM as a move to weaken the opposition. We've seen, they say those with functional eyes don't need not to be told what to see. They can actually employ the five senses of a human being to arrive at a conclusion or give a possible outcome. The activities that succeeded the swearing in of the president, Dr. William Ruto, was a clear indication on the mean appreciation of the roles of opposition in its government. And a dysfunctional opposition in the 21st century is a clear and exposure of the ordinary citizenry to a cruel human lifestyle. We saw when the opposition went in bed with the government, no one was there to question the government, put checks and balances. You saw that is when the the prices for basic commodities shot at a very exorbitant rate, and no one was there to question. So the opposition must remain the opposition. There we'll agree with the president. Let everyone play their role.
All right.
And as much as the opposition in Kenya is not constitutionally recognized, but they are because they are the minority constitutionally. Let them do their role.
All right, probably because of the interest of time. We have seen now the president, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, exercising his powers and authorities in the position, the capacity of president. We saw him during the UNGA summit in New York, when he gave a detailed address on climate change. He came back, of course, we have seen him today flagging off relief food to the counties that have been affected by drought. So we are already counting into his 100 days in office. Will he deliver to the threshold of will he deliver rather to the promises and the manifestos he made to the Kenyans, starting to see from how he's been exercising his duties in the capacity of president?
Actually, it is not a question of will he, it is an answer of he must.
Yes.
You know, when he was making promises, he was looking for a job. Actually, he was not doing anyone a favor. The president was on a mission to get a job, and that authority comes with responsibility.
Yes.
Being number one, you have to deliver. At this point in time, besides being an active political individual, I am an active environmentalist.
Yes.
I compare the engagement of my colleagues in Israel and what we do in Kenya. Actually, Kenya, we are just a blessed nation led by crooks and people who are underprivileged. Because if at all resources can be disseminated to individuals at the lower cadre, I'm telling you, we will produce surplus. In Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara ensured that from a begging economy to a surplus export economy through hard work. He had the people of Burkina Faso on the importance of individual commitment towards production. There is no sufficient economy that can stand the bureaucratic financial systems of this world today without proper production. The backbone of any economy stops and starts with production.
Right.
In other words, I'm just saying at this point in time, the president should not start with reliefs. He should do something that will prevent that relief food distribution in the next 5 years. We have the capacity. What are we lacking? We are actually, Pierre Lumumba once told us that the people in power have no ideas, while those without power have the ideas. But I believe for the first time, we have one of the sharpest brains in government. The president must not entertain the thought of this relief food distribution. We want food being produced from those areas. Tel Aviv was erected from a desert.
Yes.
Kenya, we are blessed to have some short rainfalls. We can produce food. We can make it. But, again, telling us that we are going for the Shamba system.
Yes.
I mean, and we are again agitating for climatic change or the COP, whatever, protection of the environment. That is being inconsiderate in the same statement.
Well, of course, now the environmental aspect, of course, that will probably form a very good discussion next time. Of course, when you're questioning on the legitimacy of what the deputy president was saying of reviving the Shamba system. And I think that makes it all for today. Let us carry on with the bulletin. I don't know whether my director is telling me take a break or we carry on with the bulletin. So let's just take a break. Still have much for you. Stay with us.
KUTV, in conjunction with Kenyatta University Funeral Home, is now offering death announcements immediately following on news bulletins at 7 p.m. At this sorrowful time, as you share in your grief, allow us to communicate your announcement of your loved one on KUTV in both Kiswahili and English. For more details, kindly inquire at the KU Funeral Home Service Desk or call 0736 928 380 or dial 020-359-9054.
Sasa ni bora zaidi. Mwanzo mpya, mambo mapya. Msimu mwingine wa Boresha Kilimo unakuletea teknolojia ibuka, kilimo mseto, uongezaji thamani. Teknolojia dijitali ya mauzo inawezesha ufikiaji wa masoko. Soko moko yako, mahangaiko yako ya kufikia masoko yamefika kikomo, manake tunao Mkulima Young.
What Mkulima Young does is it connects farmers with the market.
Hii ni Boresha Kilimo kwa ushirikiano na Mkulima Young. Atafutaye hachoki na kichoka kesha pata. Kwa makala maalum ya kilimo, ungana nasi kila Jumamosi saa 6:30 kwenye kipindi ukipendacho Boresha Kilimo.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at what's happening in the world of sports. Now, double Olympic marathon champion Eliud Kipchoge, who now boasts numerous titles, including 4 records in Berlin, marked yesterday in the BMW race. This is truly the proof of his encouragement that quotes that no human is limited. Our sports correspondent Jacqueline Anjiru has a comprehensive report of the rise to glory.
Marathon champion Eliud Kipchoge of Kenyan nationality was born on 5th November 1984 in Nandi County. He was raised from a humble background by a single mother. He schooled at Kaptel Secondary School that was 2 miles away from his residence before meeting his trainer Patrick Sang, a former Olympic medalist in steeplechase who has aided in coaching his athletics career. His racing journey began in 2002 at the age of 17 years, where he participated in the Kenyan trials for the 2002 IAAF World Cross Country Championships junior race and won, hence enabling him to proceed to Dublin for the World Cross Country Championships. In 2003, he set a world junior record in the 5,000 meter at the Bislett Games, taking 12 minutes 52 seconds to complete the race that stood as the world and African junior record until 2012. In the same year, Kipchoge won a gold medal at the 5,000 meter final at the World Championships in Paris. In 2006, he claimed a bronze in the 3,000 meters indoor at the 2006 World Championships in Moscow before scooping a silver medal in the 5,000 meter final of the 2007 World Championships at Osaka. Having seemed to stabilize his career, he earned a series of medals in 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2021 Olympics and other subsequent World Championships. Eliud Kipchoge made history as the first human being to ever undertake a marathon in under 2 hours at the Ineos Challenge in Vienna, Austria. On the 25th of September 2022, Eliud Kipchoge marked his fourth record in the Berlin Marathon, where he broke his own record and set another of 2 hours, 1 minute, 9 seconds. His participation has enabled him earn several state commendations, including the second most superior commendation in the country, that is the Elder of the Order of the Golden Heart. Kipchoge is an inspiration to many, having placed Kenya on top of the world's map in matters concerning athletics. Jacqueline Wanjiru, KUTV.
Congratulations, the GOAT, the greatest of all times, Eliud Kipchoge, on his win at the BMW Marathon. Now, France conceded a 2-0 defeat against Denmark at the Parken Stadium yesterday night in their final